Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome to the greatest thing that's ever happened anywhere.
Just when they think they got the answers, I change the questions.
You keep on kissing babies and hugging fat girls. Shut your mouth, you thong-wearing fatty. I have to announce to you that I will never retire.
You'd best grab a snorkel, because we're going down.
All right, America, it's time for the Ringside Wranglers Wrestling Report with your hosts, Haz-Bin and Jack Jaw.
What's up, wrestling fans? I'm Jack Jaw with the Ringside Wrangler Wrestling Report, here weekly reporting news from the WWE, AEW, always independents, and we always got the Haz-Bin. What's up, Haz-Bin?
How's it going, sir? Got a text message from the Hurricane Sugar Shane Helm, said that he's coming by, so he wants us to stand by because he's coming through. But I think he's going more toward our east. So.
Stand back to the hurricane!
Exactly. I think he's going more to our east, though. Because most of you who don't know, we're broadcasting from the Baton Rouge area, metro area. So we're kind of watching this storm. And anyone that's watching us in the Gulf Coast area, we certainly have our prayers for you. And you need to buckle down because we will have to put old Helms down for the 1, 2, 3.
Well, guess what? You know me. I'm Jack Jaw. That's Haz-Bin. We're going to run down the news from the WWE, the AEW, and Independents. Top of the show, we've got the WWE Raw show. We're like 1 week out from Backlash. So let's run down what happened this week on the Raw show Monday night. Seth Rollins coming out to honor the career of Rey Mysterio. Every time you talk about Rey Mysterio retiring, they've got to bring his son into the picture. I guess they're just going to build a career for his son, but here he is. What's your take on that one?
Okay. The talk of the sheets was that Dominic was going to turn on his father and join Seth Rollins' cult, if you will. On the Tuesday show on FS1, Christian kind of broke that. Booker T kind of broke that. In fact, Booker T even offered to have the guy go to his Dominic go to his school in Houston and kind of train him, get him in shape. So I think they're kind of letting the cat out of the bag, or they're working the smart marks. But keep your eye on Dominic because he very well may turn on his father Ray and join Seth Rollins' cult of personality, if you will. No disrespect to Punk.
That would be good. Either way, somewhat the theme of the night, what's been going on recently the last couple of weeks, is you have wrestlers coming out and they're staying around and sticking around for multiple story angles throughout the show. So you got Seth Rollins coming out talking the Rey Mysterio angle, and then he's in a match with Aleister Black right out the gate. Aleister Black gets the win over him via pinfall. I was like, man, Aleister Black, it seems like he's up and down, but hey, it looks like he's on the upward track again, getting pushed. Love Aleister Black, love his style. So what's your take on that one?
Well, you remember back at the Money in the Bank, Aleister Black actually had gotten thrown off the top of the building, so to speak, as well as Ray Jr. did. So they kind of have some gripes going with that. Aleister Black apparently is trying to come to Ray Jr.'s side. And like you said before, with this coronavirus stuff going, it's tough because you got a lot of people having to do what they call double shots, working more than one time in an event. And it shows a lot of athleticism on that part. Because you talk to any wrestler, independent or major league, it doesn't matter because it's very difficult whenever you wrestle a match and have to cool down. You have to warm your body up, you wrestle a match, cool down, then you got to warm it up again and wrestle. And when you do that, you have the risk of injuring your any one of your muscles in your body. Just to be not trying to get doctor on you, I'm just trying to say. So these guys that are performing on Raw and SmackDown, NXT, AEW, if they're agreeing to do it during the pandemic, they're getting a lot of television time, which is great because other people don't want to go. But they're also got to be careful they don't injure themselves because it's very easy to pull something or hurt something if you're not completely stretched out.
Yep. Either way, I thought that was a great Aleister Black win there. Then you got Selena Vega out. Her guy loses the U.S. Championship. She's out there with Angel Garza, staking her claim that she's still legit. It's going to be interesting what angle they put together for her next. Angel Garza, great performer. Any take on that one?
He's really good, and Vega, Zelina Vega, you got to give it. She is so good, man, because she's playing that evil Vicky Guerrero style heel role. Because Garza is really trying to get sweet with Charlie Caruso, and he's trying to be sweet to her and win her heart, and she's playing the whole thing about being the lovey-dovey Christine 16 kind of thing, and Vega's right there just taking the freaking flower and ripping it. I mean, she's such a good heel. This is a good angle. I like this a lot.
Yeah. Excuse me. Maybe that'll come over soon.
Exactly.
Either way, next up you got Apollo Crews, new U.S. champion, defending against Kevin Owens. I was kind of back that one real quick. Maybe we can jump to that one if we need to. But that was another angle they pushed right there. Shawn Michaels, man, he looks like he's definitely out of the wrestling business now with that full-on beard. He's out there pitching who he thinks is going to win the greatest match ever. Last week you had Ric Flair. Back to right there. There's you got Kevin Owens, Apollo Crews right there. That match was a no contest, which blossoms into a match. Apollo Crews and Kevin Owens taking on Andrade and Angel Garza. Apollo Crews and Kevin Owens right there get the win. Next up, you got Shawn Michaels, back one up. I skipped that one. He's making his prediction on Edge and Randy Orton. Last week, you got Flair saying Orton's going to win. This week, you got Shawn Michaels saying Edge is going to win. I like the fact that they're pitching as the best match ever. I'm not so quite sure it's the best match ever, but hey, who knows? It's not the best match ever to you, though, I can see.
No, it's not going to be the greatest wrestling match of all time, but the two greatest wrestlers of all time, but the greatest ring announcer of all time announcing it, the greatest referee doing the call, and the greatest ring bell guy doing it, and the greatest fans watching it, the greatest network. No, it's not, man. I understand they're trying to push this, but when you do this over and over and you say the greatest wrestling match ever 9 times an hour, after a while, you're forcing people to believe it's going to be the greatest match. If you do have a Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat and Sting and Ric Flair at the Clash of Champions, those matches spoke for themselves. They didn't have to say it was the greatest match ever because you go back and watch on the WWE Network and you say, hey, man, that was the greatest match of all time. But when you say, hey, this is going to be the greatest match, this is going to be the greatest match, you're forcing people. You're force feeding them. And you know what happens when you force feed somebody? They throw up.
That's right. Well, for one thing for sure, it'll be the greatest match ever on June the 14th at about 8 Central. How about that one? They can rest that claim. They can take that claim. Next up, jump a couple slides forward. You got Billy Kay from the Iconics taking out Nikki Cross via pinfall. I thought it was ironic that you got Nikki Cross in singles action, and then later on in the night, she's going to go on and her tag team defend her tag team championship. I guess this is their way to keep Iconics relevant. Billy Kay, pretty decent performer, pretty good. Then they bring back Rey Mysterio to give a health update. So I guess they're just saying that, he is going to be still relevant. That angle you pitched at the beginning, that seems to be pretty cool. His son turning on him, that would be really good. I would like that story angle. Another thing that happened on Monday night, I thought this was kind of funny because you were wondering how they were going to wind down the whole Gronkowski 24/7 championship. They made it so easy on him. They went to his house and he was outside dancing in the yard, just a stupid little thing they got going on. Guy shows up, referee shows up, and there's R-Truth getting the pin on Gronkowski to take his 24/7 title back. I thought it was a pretty funny angle. You're just going, yeah, whatever. But I guess that's what you say every time you hear 24/7 title, whatever.
Yeah. And again, AEW, obviously their Ted Turner, if you will, is the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So AEW is going to be heavily involved with the Jacksonville Jaguars and football stuff with their stadium and their club and all that stuff, because they're the owner of the football team, the financial person, is like the Ted Turner of the WCW. So he's got to be a part of that. This whole thing about Gronk having the title, they would have went down to Tampa Bay. I don't know how they would have liked that. I mean, a lot of people think they're copying off AEW and they're trying to stay independent. They've already copied AEW with having the wrestling fans come in. They're putting the plexiglass up to try and be different. So, yeah, and they had to get rid of it. It wasn't going to work.
Yep. Next up, Nia Jax taking out Kairi Sane. Little reading behind the storyline there. Well, there he is right there, new 24/7 champion, R-Truth. Then you got Nia Jax versus Kairi Sane. Behind the scenes article reading there. Apparently, Nia Jax is wrestling, what do you call it, stiff or whatever. Mm-hmm. You see the gash she put on Kairi Sane's head? Check that shot out.
Yeah. And how did Becky Lynch, the soon-to-be mom, God bless her, how did she go from Becky Lynch to the man when she got her nose busted open? It's no secret, guys, that for whatever reason, Nia Jax isn't exactly the the favorite talent to go up against because of her wrestling etiquette isn't exactly that great. And when you get a stiff reputation like Bruiser Bob Sweetan and all these guys and Bruiser Brody, when you get reputations like that, a lot of people don't want to work with you. She's going to have to work with that because I tell you, Vince is going to probably get on her for that. I'm sorry, Mr. McMahon is going to get on for that.
That's right.
If it happens every now and then, things happen. If you have a stiff match so often, and all the wrestlers talk about it, you can't work perfect all the time, and it's not ballet. It's real life work. I mean, you have to protect each other and sell a story, but it is physicality. You got to do what you can. But when you go out there, and this is like the second or third documented event that was pretty serious with the Becky Lynch thing, and now this with Carrie Singh. I mean, she's got to work on that. I mean, you remember Nikki Bella when she came back from having the baby was having some issues when she who was it? Was it it's one of the ladies that were with the 3-lady team that broke up with Ruby Riott.
I got you.
Yeah. She got one of the Riott Squad members got popped open real good by Nikki Bella. So sometimes you got to work on that. She's a great athlete. Don't get me wrong, and she deserves a title shot. Talking about Nia Jax, she's got to work on it.
Yep. Next up, you had Randy Orton coming out there. Just this continual repetition of storylines throughout a show. They come back and they recycle back. Randy Orton is pitching himself obviously over Edge, and his story. He vows to rewrite Edge's storybook ending in the WWE. Just to never continue to build this best match ever storyline. Who knows? I don't know who's going to win this. I would think Edge would win it, but you never can tell. Either way, Randy Orton looking pretty tough right there, saying rewriting the storyline. So who knows what you're taking? Any final take on that one?
If they wouldn't, and please pardon my language, I think we can say this. If they wouldn't have bastardized the match so much about the greatest match ever, and just let it go, man. Just let it go. I guarantee there would have been so much interest in this and everything. But when you sit there and you have to put this plug on it to force people to believe it, it's like you're overselling it. You don't need to sell a car. You don't need to sell a job. You don't need to sell an event. You let the event or the car or the job sell itself. And these two guys, one's a Hall of Famer, one's a surefire Hall of Famer. They are more than good enough to sell this match. They don't need that. I don't like it. I mean, who the hell are you? You're just a has-been jabroni. Well, cool, man. I'm just telling you. From my experience, I wouldn't do that. Let those dudes do their thing.
Especially knowing it's going to be in a fake fan type studio. Either way, that's going to be hard. I can't imagine any match that under those settings being the best match ever. Next up, you had Osaka and Charlotte Flair continuing their feud. Charlotte Flair, she definitely holds the upper hand on Osaka, taking her out at WrestleMania. Was at 33 when Osaka was on that big run. This match doesn't end well because Nia Jax is out there to stop it, so the referee has to stop it. So building that angle for you got Charlotte Flair fighting today at the NXT pay-per-view, and then she's going to turn around and fight next week for that match. So either way, that was a pretty good angle right there.
Let me say this. If Nia Jax wants to get stiff with Asuka, she better think twice because Asuka's going to beat the hell out of her. Asuka's a hardcore, legit Japanese phenom female wrestler. And she and Hikaru Shida with AEW, I mean, they know what they're doing, man. You don't want to go stiff with them. Trust me.
Yep. And just typical Raw Monday night ending. Drew McIntyre, week after week, ends the show. Great performer, just bad circumstances that he's a champion under. He takes out MVP in a non-title match. That's building up the Drew McIntyre match against
Bobby Lashley.
Bobby Lashley at the Backlash show next Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
That show ends okay. Next up on the weekend, Wednesday night, you had NXT. We'll just run down what's going. Obviously, the NXT is leading up to their In Your House pay-per-view that's on tonight, 7 Eastern, on the WWE Network for $10, $9.99. Either way, we'll be watching it. It ought to be pretty good. We'll just run down some matches here and focus on the ones that are to me are somewhat appealing. Candice LeRae taking out Mia Yim, double count out. Actually, she doesn't take her out, so it's a double count out. Neither one wins. That right there was the same storyline that they had on a SmackDown show last week, the double count out of two really aggressive fighters. Next up, you had Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae taking out Keith Lee and Mia Yim. So again, just like Raw, you've got people performing in multiple matches on the same show.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah Swerve Scott over Tony Nese. That was a pretty entertaining match there. And then I thought this was kind of cool. They brought this tag team back last week. They were rumored. There's your Isaiah Swerve, Tony Nese going down to Isaiah Swerve, even though that shot right there didn't look like he went down, but he goes down in that match. Next up, you had the number one contenders triple threat match for the tag titles in the NXT. You had the Undisputed Era, Oni Lorcan, and Danny Burch. And last week they were rumored who was going to be the third tag team in there. I would have not guessed this one, but when they came out, Breezango, Fandango, and Tyler Breeze.
Really? So they're coming back.
Rebranded. And what's crazy is they go on and get the win. Pretty impressive. Those little silver outfits come off, and they look definitely a lot better. Tyler Breeze lost the blonde hair, so he's looking more like Fandango. So that was a pretty decent match. Breezango, they get the win. After the match, you have the Imperium coming down the ramp to tell them to stare them down as the new number one contenders. I tell you what, if Breezango gets the win, that would be pretty crazy, pretty big push out of the blue. Didn't see that one coming.
Good to see him back. It's just good to see him back because, we talked about Drew Gulak. I know we haven't got to SmackDown yet, but Drew Gulak had some issues with his contract, and now he's back on SmackDown. So, like you said earlier, Jack, with the situation with this pandemic going on, and a lot of people just don't want to wrestle like the Roman Reigns and all, and they have every right to do that. They don't want to wrestle because they're concerned about their health. That's giving these other people opportunities that maybe had gotten furloughed or let go. Now they can come back. Or people that are in the developmental NXT that are kind of like on the edge and maybe need a couple more months of seasoning, now they can be pushed up a little further and get the job done. So it's actually a win-win for some people. If you look at it from a glass half full scenario, it's a good thing.
Yep. I like the angle they got going on there. Next up, you had Santana Garrett over Aliyah. Average match. Good performance by the females there. Cameron Grimes. This guy, he took on Bronson Reed, who's just a beast. Look at the size of this dude. Either way, that guy gets the loss. The Cameron Grimes, the smaller guy, gets the win there. Next up, you had the tournament finals for the interim NXT Cruiserweight title. This match was the main event of the night. There's your guy right there, Cameron Grimes. He gets the win over Bronson Reed, as I said. In the main event of the match, you had Phantasmo versus Drake Maverick, and we all know Drake Maverick was let go a couple weeks ago. So Phantasmo is your new cruiserweight champion, but they end the show with Triple H out there giving a contract to Drake Maverick. I guess it was a heartfelt moment. You thought he was let go. There he is, hand raised with a new contract. Triple H.
And I like that because Drake Maverick is now going back to when he was Rockstar Spud, and in Impact, he's starting to wrestle that style again. I mean, when he came in, he had the fake wife and having to be the 24/7 and running around and kind of being a fool. Now he's starting to be more what you saw when he was in Impact, where he's actually a wrestler, and you can see how good of an athlete he really is. So again, it goes back to what I just said earlier. Not to try to repeat myself, I just want to get the point across. This pandemic situation, because there's a limited amount of people that are coming in because of their own safety fears, which is fine. It gives other people like Drake Maverick, Apollo Crews, and Gulak, all these guys and ladies get to come in, show their stuff, and maybe it may have taken them 6 months to a year, or hell, maybe they may have not even been able to come in. Now they're getting TV time, to getting contracts, and it's a win-win for them.
Yep. So that ended the show that night. So again, their pay-per-view is tonight, 7 Eastern on the WWE Network, in your house. A lot of good matches right there. There's your guy. We talked about him earlier. Adam Cole. Adam Cole's going to be defending against the Velveteen Dream. You got the women's match.
I'm pulling for Adam Cole, if nothing more, because his wife or girlfriend or whomever she is super hot. And that would be the Good Doctor in AEW.
That's right. Either way, on to SmackDown for the week. I believe that's the next slide we got. Yes, we do. Jeff Hardy last week, the show ended this way with him being taken away in handcuffs. You thought he had did a drunk driving deal. He returned at the end of the show after being let out of jail, and that story angle continued this week, where apparently the person seen running from the car was red-headed with a red beard, and who else could that be? Sheamus. So looks like Sheamus was trying to do the little scam job on Matt Hardy to build that angle even more. So that's a good angle right there. And you've got that match coming up at Backlash, Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus. What'd you think of that one?
For whatever it's worth, and again, we talked about how on the Tuesday, and hopefully a lot of people are watching this Tuesday night show on FS1, the one that Renee Young hosts with the guys that are now doing it like we're doing it on viral video.
Yep.
But even on that show, she asked how they thought about it, and Booker T and Punk and Christian all agreed, as did I when we talked about this. I don't really like whenever you go and take a real life angle and exploit it. Whether or not the superstar that was involved in the angle is okay with it, like Road Warrior and Hawk was, like Drosdorf was, like Jeff Hardy was, like Jake Roberts was, like Razor Ramon, Scott Hall was. They were all okay with having this. I don't like when you take a real life issue that someone has and put it into an angle, because it's kind of, to me, maybe it sells and Mr. McMahon likes that kind of stuff. But me, I think it kind of hits close to home. For me, it's a fine line between being a superstar and being a human being, husband, wife, or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. That's just me. I mean, what do you think about that?
I got you. I agree with you. I was kind of happy that it went this way, so it wasn't like he was still struggling with alcohol again. But either way, I think it's a great story that going on there. So that match is going to build up. It was convenient how they took them out of that the Intercontinental Championship tournament to do it that way. So that was a pretty cool, nifty bit of writing there. Next
maybe
up,
that's how they had to push it. Maybe that's how they had to push it. I'm saying maybe that's how they had to push it.
Yeah.
In order for Sheamus to get heat with him, they had to go back to his past.
Yeah, built it up. So Otis, your Money in the Bank briefcase holder, he gets the win over King Corbin via disqualification. Stories that I was reading is they wanted Otis to just win it outright, not have to win by DQ. But I guess it's just their way of keeping King Corbin relevant, because he's definitely been on the downward spiral. Next up, Lacey Evans versus Sonya Deville, a rematch from last week. These are two great workers. Last week it ended in a double countout. This week, Lacey Evans actually gets the win. Great match there. Great performers. Sonya Deville is just she's ripped too. So either way, Lacey Evans gets the win there. Next up, you had Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles out there to talk their match for the IC Intercontinental Championship. That's the tournament they've been in. Daniel Bryan's giving AJ Styles a hard time taking the easy road by taking the bye, not having to fight Elias, Elias, by the way, looks like he's got an injury that maybe he'll be out for a while, torn pectoral muscle as part of that accident with Sheamus / Jeff Hardy. So Daniel Bryan says, hey, you're not the man you think you are. If you were the man, you'd be like Drew Gulak. So there's the match, Drew Gulak against AJ Styles. And guess what? Drew Gulak gets the win over AJ Styles. That was a pretty impressive push of Drew Gulak to make him relevant. What's your take on that one?
I really like it a lot. I like the way that they're kind of getting a bunch of people involved in this. I mean, obviously all the eyes are on AJ and on Daniel Bryan. It's hard for me to say who I like to win, because I think they both deserve it. Of course, AJ, if he were to win the Intercontinental title, he would win the Golden Crown, the Golden Goose, if you will, where he wins all the titles, all the singles and tag titles in WWE in his career would have been accomplished if he wins his IC championship. Of course, Daniel Bryan, if he were to win it, he can kind of resurrect his career before he decides to do what he wants. So both of them have their own agenda. Whoever would have won this match, I'd be very happy with, because they're both phenomenal athletes and great workers.
Yep. Then you had Braun Strowman. This thing went on throughout the night. The Miz and John Morrison playing pranks on him. They took out the window of Braun Strowman's, what was that, a Grand National? That's his baby car that he loves. They took out the window of that. They spiked his protein drink. They slimed the interviewer of him. Well, he later goes on that night to find out that they're in this media van watching him and stuff. Well, Braun Strowman, Mr. Master of the flip the vehicle on his own, he does that with him in it. So pretty funny storyline there. I don't know how they do that. I'm Braun Strowman. He's just a beast, I guess. I mean, that's just nuts. I can't imagine those guys were actually in the ring in the van at the time. But either way, flips the van over.
I think he could. I mean, I knew he was going to flip it over. I could tell. And that dude's strength, being a former power lifter, I think he really could have lifted him with that. I think what you saw was probably real. I wouldn't doubt it. Yep. He's that strong.
And then the main event of the night, you had the Women's Tag Team Championship, as we said earlier, Bayley and Sasha Banks. They actually get the win. You've got new tag women's champions. They get the win over Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross.
And that's further setting the seed for these two women to finally split. It's going to be Sasha's got this reputation of being a what about me, what about Raven kind of chick. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think, she's going to split and say, hey, I helped win the if you watch that match, she actually helped win the belt because Bailey had a chance to get a win and didn't do it, and then Sasha had to come in and clean up, if you will, and Sasha pretty much secured the victory so she can have that argument, hey, if it wouldn't have been for me, we wouldn't have won these tag titles and such like that. And that's a great way to help, which already is a strained relationship. Now we can completely sever it at the core by that way.
Yep. So next week, all this is a build up to next Sunday, June the 14th at 7 Eastern on the WWE Network. You got Backlash. We'll cover that card next week when it all gets finalized during action this week coming up from Raw, NXT. I'm guessing there will be some NXT participants at Backlash. I don't know. And then obviously SmackDown participants. So ought to be good. On to AEW. We have to apologize for one thing on AEW. I was shocked that I remember seeing this in the news, and we did not cover it at all last week. The Revival showing up, what they're called now, FTR. We didn't cover it at all last week. I guess there was so much action going on, but we're going to cover it this week. FTR. So again, we used to cover AEW and their competition with NXT. They are no competition to NXT. They are blow them out. They are competition to the whole WWE brand. So we're stoked about following AEW and going on with that. So first match out of the gate, you're a week plus out from their last Double or Nothing pay-per-view. So they got some great performers coming in, great angles they're pitching. Adam Hangman Page and Kenny Omega defend their tag titles against Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc. Obviously, Adam Page and Kenny Omega get the win there, but definitely FTR has them in their sights. See that angle coming soon, but we'll talk FTR in a minute because FTR is going to have somebody they're going to have to feud with before they go for the AEW Tag Championships. Next up, you had Brian Cage, the Beast, with Taz coming out there just destroying somebody named Sean Dean. And then, obviously, since Brian Cage got the win at Double or Nothing, he's next in line to fight Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley out there. I mean, this was a great storyline, great interview. Just the way he's not backing down to him. He's just looking at him, just going, dude, you're just somebody else I'm going to take out. The only thing I would say about this is they're kind of pushing this pretty quick. I wish they would do the whole Brian Cage, squashing people week after week after week, rather than right now. It's already him and Moxley, and he's only squashed 2 people. So I wish they pushed that a little bit longer. So who's to know? I think that's going to be a great story right there. Taz is I think he's great on the mic. He's great as a little manager per se, I guess you want to call him. So what's your take on this one?
Absolutely. Just what you said. I agree. I mean, with him winning that chip or whatever, which is the equivalent of the Money in the Bank, he ends up getting the title shot with Brian Cage. I don't know if we can call him the Beast because that's Brock Lesnar, but I think the Behemoth Brian Cage might be a pretty good name.
Yeah.
Can't think of a better, I don't want to call him a manager. I prefer to call him an advisor, like a Paul Heyman or a James J. Dillon. I can't think of a better advisor than Taz. I mean, you go back and watch what this guy did in ECW alone is where he cut his teeth without a doubt. A little bit of success in WWE, but if you want to see what Taz is about, or a boot, as the Canadians would say, go get WWE Network, pull up ECW. Everything you see is what you see right there. And you know that he's got respect for Brian Cage because he's letting Brian Cage use Taz's trademark out phrase, beat me if you can, survive if I let you.
Yeah, that's right. It's good point there. Next up, you had Chris Jericho. Still upset that he had the feud last week with Mike Tyson. Still saying he wants Mike Tyson. He wants Iron Mike, all this kind of stuff. He's going to fight this week Colt Cabana. Not really sure about what they're doing with Colt Cabana, but he gets Jericho gets the win over him. After the match, he's calling out Mike Tyson, and then Orange Cassidy's music hits. I thought this was a little funny thing there. Orange Cassidy comes out there and takes Jericho's hands and puts them in his pockets like the Orange Cassidy moves, and then does the juck and jive against him and Jake Swagger, whatever you want to call him. Gets out of the ring, and then the best friends rescue him. So you still got Jericho, Tyson build up. Who knows when that'll happen? I guess it'll happen sometime their next pay-per-view. Who knows? I think that's weak. But who knows?
Nope. They don't need it.
Yeah.
They don't need it. They don't need to go back and revisit Steve Austin and Mike Tyson, even though JR is there trying to relive the past. They don't need it. They got enough talent, in my opinion, to do that. I don't like the fact that Colt Cabana is an enhancement talent right now. He's got too much reputation from Japan, overseas. I think he should be in the mix with him. And I really think this thing with Tyson, I know they're trying to get media attention. Again, it goes back to this greatest wrestling match of all time, blah, 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 blah. You don't need Mike. I mean, Mike Tyson, the wrestling fans, great. But I don't need Mike Tyson to fight Chris Jericho to put my company over. My company is already over. It's been over since day one. And it's just getting better and better every week.
I would guess at this point, the only thing Tyson brings to them is he brings the opportunity for AEW to show up on ESPN.com.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that because WWE's got ESPN in their back pocket or vice versa. So, yeah, I will agree with you on that.
Yeah. On to Nyla Rose. She lost her belt last week. She's taking on Big Swole. Nyla Rose, I was sitting there going, well, this could go one way or the other. If Nyla Rose loses this one, she's definitely on the downward spiral, or it's on the downward spiral. But Nyla Rose gets the win there. She's pretty tough person, we'll say. We'll leave it at that. Big Swole, I was hoping she was going to start to get a push, but she didn't. Either way, Nyla Rose gets the win there. Then you have the FTR interview. Reading some of the backstories, I saw this thing that said AEW censors the use of the word revival. I guess it's one of those things, if somebody says don't say it, you would never thought to say it, but because somebody says don't say it, you'll inevitably just say it on accident, and that's exactly what happened later on in the show. But either way, going into this week's show, I guess pre-production was saying, hey, do not use the word revival, because we all know these are the revival from WWE and their recent signs. Now they're going by FTR. So there they are sitting down with Tony Schiavone for the interview, just basically saying they're legit. They want to fight, obviously for the tag titles. But before this angle ended right here, this interview ends, here comes the Butcher and the Blade to confront them. So obviously that's going to be where it goes first. What you got?
Where was the bunny?
Well,
bunny's eye candy, man. The bunny's eye candy. You got to have the bunny there. Listen, this thing with FTR is supposed to be for the revolution, but we both know, even Mr. Punk knows, the producer Punk, everybody knows this, okay? It either is going to stand for the F word, the rest, or the F word, the revival. Preferably the F word, the revival is what it means, okay? That's what it means. It ain't this for the revolution. No, it's not that at all. Now, one thing, I am absolutely stoked that these guys are in AEW, just like Jericho, just like Moxley, just like all these guys that came from WWE. Brody Lee they didn't feel they were getting a shot. You never could see what they could do. They made their way over to AEW, and now they're getting a chance to show who they really are. And these guys in the Revival, they pretty much were a clown tag team in WWE, and I hate that because their whole nucleus of the Revival was what? What was the nucleus of the Revival tag team? What did they base themselves off of? They based themselves off of the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, Ole Arn Anderson, and Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. That's what they based themselves off of, okay? That's why they were called the Revival. There was a revival of the old-time tag wrestling. Now, they had to watch wrestling tapes on WWE Network or wherever of Ole and Arn and Gene and Arn and Tully and Arn. Now, not only are they in AEW, but they get to pick the brains live and in person of Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, the very same two people who they mimic their careers off of. So I am so freaking stoked for these guys because there's nothing but opportunity and open air between them and success.
Yep. Before that interview ended, you had the Butcher and the Blade. They had their big run-in, a big feud going on. I thought it was pretty funny, and I had to rewind this when I read about it, that during this thing, you obviously hear when they bleep, they won't bleep the S-bombs that Jericho will say, but they'll bleep the F-bombs. So if you rewind it back, you'll see the AEW not only bleeps the F-bomb, but they also bleep, somebody says the word revival. So you had a double bleep on this little feud at the end. So that match is set for next week. So I guess sooner than later, FTR will be fighting for the tag championships. The main event of the night, you had Cody taking on Jungle Boy. Jim Ross is just beside himself. He gets on these rants where he'll say stuff over and over again. So he's created this habit of listing all the things that he has that are older than a Jungle Boy. Pretty funny. I just take it for what it is. But, hey, that was a good match. Blood on that match. You don't see that too much in WWE, but blood match. It was funny how he just busted himself open pretty quickly. And then when they came back, he was bleeding like that. And then, but either way, he goes on to gets the win over Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy, I guess, will still continue to feud with MJF, right? So because MJF was ringside and he was going, I can't believe you're fighting for the title and not me, because I just got the win over you. But either way, Jungle Boy, great performer, great announcing. Tony Schiavone, Jim Ross, obviously. So that's the way the night ends. So next week you've got the FTR fighting. That's a good match set up, and who knows how they'll continue to build the angle with Brian Cage and John Moxley. Any final comments on AEW?
Going beyond the Jungle Boy's celebrity father, who has passed away, God bless his soul, I think that match Wednesday night put the Jungle Boy on the map, because you said it yourself. I mean, you really don't. There's no reason that Cody Rhodes, who was the brainchild and the first WWE defectee to form this organization, for him to have to go out there and actually do a blade job to win over Jungle Boy tells, because in WWE it's a squash match, beats him in 5 minutes, done. Okay, the Jungle Boy had a hell of a match against MJF at the casino match, at the casino pay-per-view thing, which I thought was to be a squash, and I apologize for that. And now this is his second big match, and look what he does with Cody Rhodes. Cody rather. I think that Jungle Boy is getting a huge push, and he's starting to get his name and his likeness is starting to get seen on TV. And I absolutely respect the fact that Cody Rhodes, not only did he blade for the guy, but he embraced him and raised his hand after the match to show how much he respected him, to kind of put him and give him the rub from the veteran, because Cody used to be a rookie too. So now you got a former rookie, now a veteran, giving the rub to a rookie and Jungle Boy, and you don't see stuff like that in WWE anymore. I wish they did, but they don't, and that's just another reason why I feel that AEW is a classy organization. And you know, you don't need Mike Tyson and Jericho, except for the ESPN exposure. These guys let the stories sell themselves. Don't need no greatest wrestling match in the world. Just watch it and let it sell itself to you.
Yep. It was great week for AEW. I like it. Looking forward to next week. On to what we always cover at the Ringside Wrangler Wrestling Report is we always cover the independents. We're always going to cover them, always going to promote them. If you've got an independent organization out there and you want the Ringside Wranglers to talk about it, give us a hit. ringsidewranglers@gmail.com. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's the best way to get in touch with us. But we will reach out and promote any independent that needs the pushing. So right now we're all in a wait and see what's going on, when we can have a show post-pandemic. So we always cover, or we like to cover, East Coast Professional Wrestling. Check out their Facebook page. They're still posting weekly videos. They got their ECPW Adrenaline show coming on weekly. Good stuff. Good legendary wrestlers that pass through there and bring up their talent in the indie world. Wrestling 225, a more local brand. Their next big show that they're actually even still talking about is their 225 Mania, that was supposed to be the night before WrestleMania, but got pushed. It's now going to be at the end of August 29th. Let me see what else. You also have a shot here. I'm hoping. I think I have a shot in here. There's your champ, the new champ that was Corey Constantine, that was new champ that came right before the pandemic, hadn't had a chance to defend it. So it looks like his first opportunity to defend, looks like, will be at 225 Mania on August the 29th. Check out their Facebook page and Eventbrite for buying tickets to that. Other than that, the other indie we follow sometimes is Wildcat Wrestling. They were trying to get a show late June, but it looks like that was trying to look a gift horse into the mouth, because that's when they wanted to have it, but they realized that they weren't going to be able to have it, so they're not promoting that right now. So again, like all of us, we're just watching the independents to see when they can have a show. Who knows? I was looking forward to that X-rated show because they had some people coming in. That was going to be good. Check out their Facebook page, because they not only are promoting their school, they're also promoting their weekly show that's on WUPL My 54. It's on Saturday nights at 11 or on Sunday nights. Other than that, that's our rundown of the independents. That's about does it for our show. So tonight we've got the NXT pay-per-view in your house. Next Sunday, we've got the Backlash pay-per-view for the WWE Raw brand / SmackDown brand. Any final comments for the week, Haz-Bin?
Yeah. I know we weren't going to do this, but I'll go ahead and do it on the fly, because I love doing this stuff because of my radio career. You know, it's kind of like a hot moment kind of deal. The superstars of the show this week will be brought to you by Eagle 98.1 FM radio in the Baton Rouge metropolitan Louisiana area. So now, Mr. Eagle 98.1, I expect either an advertising fee, which we won't get, but I will appreciate, since I have a lot of friends that work there, and I'm being serious about this now, just give us a plug. give us a plug or come on the program. We enjoy it because it's a great radio station. The home of the Tigers and all that stuff is great. Great radio station if you're in the Baton Rouge area. Eagle 98.1. Great FM music. Great rock music. Classic rock. My buddy Charles Pierce, Chucky P, then took over that place and made it look great. And also the home of LSU sports. So courtesy of Eagle 98.1, Raw Brand, Superstars of the Night, Asuka, Charlotte Flair stole the show. AEW, Wrestler of the Night, Jungle Boy stole the show. SmackDown, Wrestlers of the Night, got to be Miz and Morrison, Hey Hey Ho Ho. Great performance by those guys. That's my selections for the Superstars of the Week, brought to you in part by Eagle 98.1 FM, the home of LSU sports.
There you go. Good comment. Good comment. So I'm Jack Jaw. That's Haz-Bin. We are the Ringside Wranglers. This is our weekly report. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube. Like and subscribe. We're here weekly to report the news. Sometimes we have hosts. We always cover WWE, AEW. Sometimes we hit Impact. Sometimes we hit NWA, but we always hit the independents. I'm Jack Jaw. Has-Been Ringside Wranglers. We are out. See you next week.
Real quick before we leave, I'll put on my safety man hat. Anyone that's in the Baton Rouge metro area along the Gulf Coast, especially in Louisiana, don't let your guard down because this storm may be tricking to the east, and of course it's 1:20 east of Central Time as we record this. Don't let this storm get the best of you because just because it looks like it's heading to the east, don't mean we're not going to get any weather out of it. Please stay safe. Keep yourselves safe. We want to see you next week. And Hurricane Shane Helms, you're going down for the 1, 2, 3.
I'm going to have to tie my hair up. I'm Jack Jaw, Ringside Wrangler. See you next week. Bye.